got a great caller. We're going to go to John from Philly. John, good morning.
Good morning, Tommy, and hello, Basil.
How we doing, man?
I'm doing very well. I wanted to ask a question of Basil, please, about his Chapman wave technique. I'm applying it to the S&P index currently. And just by way of background, Basil, of course, you recall I've been your student since 2006. And I collaborated very closely with another student of yours, Bob from Saratoga, in defining trading techniques using the Chapman wave. Anyway, with that as background, I asked this question, Basil, on the Chapman wave count. Can you explain to me and your audience the theory that you developed describing why rally phases extend to Chapman wave labels C, D, E, F, and G, but no higher, what that means and where that came from, please?
John, there's an evolvement that goes on when one is doing technical analysis and studying it and also developing techniques. And it's really a testing. It is a testing of what works and what doesn't. So I'm not going to take too much time now because this is with Tommy. In my show at noon, I'll go in a little bit more detail. But let me just say that I found over the years that in the notation of the Chapman wave, I can go to a peak A, a peak B, C, D, E, F, and G. But there's no such thing as an H, because when you get to the next highest peak, I found that I had to go back and see where either I was wrong or that there's something else that's changed and that there was now a new notation. That's where I developed what I call the alternate count. And if you're looking at the S&P, you'll see that on the 11th of June at 2790.21, that was leg F/C. Why did I say F? Because the technicals were still very strong, and we had made a peak D. That's the one that's most important back on the 22nd of May at 2742.24. And what happened was it extended higher, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss a count, but the technicals were still strong, and I said, I'm anticipating there'll be a leg D. Why would it be a D? Because when you get a C, it automatically, the next letter will be D. When you get an F and the next letter is G, the G gets negated because I've got to that D, which is always the important peak that we're looking for. So the other reason why I learned about the G, especially the G/C, is that very often you make the G, especially if there's a good chance that it's still acting quite well, it can pull back, make a cup formation, and just nominally go to that slightly higher peak that gives you the D, and then it's all done, and then you can be pulling back after that. So it was a trial and error process, and eventually I said, yep, there's no such thing as an H either on the way down or the way up. G is what you got to look for, and it's incredible how many times G is actually a very serious turning point. But I've also learned over the years to not ignore the fact that if the technicals are still strong, you might get that one little extra peak, and that negates the G, because then in comes the D. I hope that answers in some way what we're looking at. I'll try to go through it a little bit more in my hour at noon today.
Basil, thanks so much, and Tommy, appreciate you doing the show, sir.
John, we always appreciate the call, man, and we appreciate you in that den as well, for sure, man. You have a great weekend.
You.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John, for all you do.